thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us today to learn about the annual copyright license for higher education from CCC, a single multi-use license that includes reuse rights to millions of works for your entire institution. Created in partnership with colleges and universities, the license is designed to meet the unique copyright challenges faced by today's academic institutions, providing users campus-wide with the copyright permissions they need in a single multi-use license, regardless of where instruction is taking place, on campus or online. I want to start by telling you a little bit about CCC in case you're not familiar with us. CCC sits between rights holders and content users. And rights holders is a broad category, but it includes publishers, authors, agents, and creators. On the content user side, we offer annual copyright licenses for businesses, academic institutions, assessment developers, and most recently we introduced a license which enables ed tech and core and supplemental curriculum development companies, as well as state departments of education and school districts in K-12 to incorporate excerpts of published works and curriculum and instructional materials. CCC provides copyright licensing and content solutions for the world's most sought after books, journals, magazines, newspapers, and more. For over 2 decades, CCC has served academic institutions of all types and sizes by providing solutions that enable educators, librarians, staff, and those that serve the academic market to use and share published works to enrich instruction while managing copyright compliance. CCC also serves as a thought leader on copyright-related issues, providing educational programs that serve both the copyright holders and the people who use their works. As a not-for-profit organization, CCC aims to simplify licensing of published works for use in academic settings while compensating publishers and creators for the use of their works. We have relationships with other similar organizations, or RROs, around the world through which we obtain valuable non-US titles for inclusion in our licenses. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do for academic institutions of higher education. CCC offers integrated licensing and content solutions that make it easy for faculty, researchers, staff, and students to access and share copyrighted works. The focus of today's webcast is on the annual copyright license, but I'll touch a bit on our pay-per-use services. If any of you have used our pay-per-use services on copyright.com in the past, all those services now reside on Marketplace at marketplace.copyright.com. Get It Now is an academic document delivery service that complements your interlibrary loan program by providing your patrons with the immediate fulfillment of full text articles from unsubscribed journals 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through an easy-to-use service integrated into your ILL platform or open URL link resolver. Get It Now is your best source for the articles your patrons need once you exceed ILL borrowing limitations such as the Rule of 5. And finally, CCC's education programs help raise the level of copyright awareness across campus with faculty, staff, and students alike. So we know that colleges and universities depend on information. It's essential to every academic institution from the classroom to the president's office. But when that information is copyright protected, it can be challenging to ensure that faculty, researchers, and other staff members have the rights they need to use and share it. Many years ago, our customers started asking for an institution-wide solution that would allow them to more readily share material and reduce the amount of work required to get individual permissions to use copyrighted works. The license was really developed by colleges and universities for colleges and universities. More than 400 individuals ranging from presidents and provosts to academic deans, librarians, and faculty, representing over 50 academic institutions, provided input in the development of the license. And based on this collective input, the annual copyright license for higher education was born. While your faculty and staff are using and sharing copyrighted material around campus and online on a daily basis, you certainly can't be there all the time to make sure they have the necessary permissions. Fortunately, with the annual copyright license, you don't have to. The license helps achieve your institution's educational objectives because it encourages the free flow of information. Students, faculty, researchers, and others who need to access information in order to learn, create, teach, and innovate. The annual copyright license is a single institution-wide license for US-based institutions, and you pay one annual fee. It provides a uniform set of reuse rights across thousands of publishers. It extends beyond the four walls of your institution, so it covers distance education, students studying abroad at international campuses of US-based schools. It includes a waiver of claims from rights holders for any past copyright infringement. And the license provides operational efficiencies through check and go permissions, which I'll talk about a bit later on. Let's talk a little bit about what the license covers. At a high level, the license provides comprehensive institution-wide coverage, allowing librarians, researchers, faculty, administrators, and staff to use and share text-based copyrighted works, reducing the need for one-off copyright permissions. Specifically, the license covers course packs, both print and electronic, classroom handouts, traditional and electronic reserves, and electronic course content, like what you would post on your LMS, Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, or D2L, and other popular platforms. It covers intranet postings, internal email. So if something you want to share some material between, say, faculty and staff and students, the license covers that. One great feature of the license is research collaboration. Publishers acknowledge that the way a lot of new content is created, especially for journal articles or new textbook chapters, is through faculty to faculty sharing and sharing among researchers. So when we talk about the reuse rights that the annual copyright license offers, it really is internal sharing in your institution, with one small exception. If you have faculty working on a research project with other faculty at another institution, works from your university or college's collection may be shared externally on this limited project basis. Continuing on, you can scan paper copies. Think about older pieces of content in your collection that weren't born digital. One thing to note is that the license does not include any right to create a library or collection intended to substantially replace a user's need for a particular work. So there are some content uses the license does not cover, and this list is much shorter. It doesn't cover external and promotional and advertising use. The second one here in the list, ILL, is the one we get the most questions about. Interlibrary loan or document delivery. ILL borrowing and distribution, as well as document delivery by the institution's library or libraries, are not covered under the license. You can think of this as content acquisition. The basic premise of the annual copyright license is that you have one legally obtained copy of the article through ILL. You just need to verify that it's covered by the license, and faculty and staff can share that work. The reproduction of the entire work is prohibited unless specifically noted by the rights holder. A question we occasionally get from the English language arts team around cover-to-cover copying. Let's say it's a short story. A few rights holders and publishers are going to be too keen on allowing copying of an entire work, which could in effect replace the need for somebody to purchase a copy. If that were to happen and the faculty member really needs the rights to the entire short story for instruction, we can work directly with that rights holder to see if they'll make an exception in that case. And then finally, the license does not include any right to create a library, collection, or repository, I mentioned this earlier, that will substantially replace the institution's need for a particular work or a subscription. So let's talk about filling gaps in your coverage. So license coverage often varies from publisher to publisher, and it causes what we sometimes internally refer to as the sort of Swiss cheese effect. The annual copyright license fills those gaps in coverage with a consistent set of terms and reuse rights across thousands of publishers. So you can see here in this graphic, all of these uses across multiple publishers, there's 4 here, for example, are covered by the license. So the license complements your subscriptions. It provides a separate, distinct agreement with rights to reuse copyrighted content from titles in our license repertoire, so our collection of rights in the license. It provides a consistent set of rights from thousands of publishers and rights that are sometimes unavailable through publisher agreements or aggregators. Finally, the license provides rights to reuse copyrighted content, not the content itself. You need a legally obtained copy. So just to pause there for a second, the license provides rights, not the content. So this graphic here, rounding out coverage, here's a graphic illustrating the idea of a kind of a web of rights. And this concept was explained to us by Georgia Harper. She was a retired copyright attorney in academic library from the University of Texas, Austin. And looking around the circle, starting at the top, Georgia talked about the various ways in which the university accessed content. She said they had content subscriptions. The faculty certainly created their own content. There are open access materials. They had direct deals with some publishers. In some cases, they could make a fair use argument for some materials, but only on a per article or per chapter basis. And there's also content that is in the public domain. That said, it would be someone's full-time job to go back and verify whether they have rights to certain content. So Georgia Harper said, we're going to purchase the annual copyright license to sit over the top and connect this web of these different types of reuse rights. So we feel confident that through this web of rights, we have coverage for faculty and staff to teach their courses, and the students are able to meet their learning objectives. So we were happy to get that feedback from Georgia and the University of Texas system, which is covered by the annual copyright license and has been for several years. So let's take a look at some of the participating publishers in the annual copyright license. And this is just a sampling of the text-based publishers in the program today. Our catalog contains a wide array of publications from journals, newspapers, magazines, newsletters, books, and more. And the publishers are just as diverse. We have hundreds of university presses such as Columbia, Cornell, MIT, Oxford. Book and journal publishers you may know, such as Elsevier, Houghton Mifflin, Lippincott, Williams, and Wilkins. Content that is important if you have nursing or health sciences programs. Nature is in there, Sage, and John Wiley, to name a few. We also have the major newspapers, such as the Boston Globe, New York Times, and USA Today, which is popular with some faculty who appreciate concise articles, clean graphics. And just so you know, wherever you are in the US, your local newspaper is likely owned by one of these large newspaper publishing conglomerates. So we likely have their content as well in the license. And as we spoke with more schools, we learned that many of the societal and association presses were important as well. For example, one law school said, can you get Michigan Law Review? That's important. The medical schools, the nursing schools, and health sciences schools said we need the American Psychological Association and the American Medical Association. So we were able to add those. And we have a team that is constantly adding new publishers and titles to the license. If there are publishers that you're interested in, just let us know and we can try and recruit those publishers into the license. So switching gears a bit, we've been talking about CCC's single comprehensive license, but I want to step back for just a moment and talk about getting copyright permissions on an individual basis. In discussions with academic librarians, they would talk about the process and tell us how much time it took. So here in these bullets just kind of goes through the process. So they log on to, in this case now, Marketplace, and they search for and identify a publication. We get a price and see if it meets our budget requirement for that department or faculty number. And then we purchase permission and filling in the data fields there. We post or distribute or photocopy that content. And then 60 days after the start of term, we account for any student adds or drops in the course or number of copies. And at the end of the semester, we reconcile invoice and forward to accounts payable. And then we take the content down because it's only available on a semester basis. So the librarians that described this process said doing this may only take 7 minutes and 45 seconds in total. But if you look at the freshman or sophomore level courses that are taught in fall term, spring term, you might be talking about 15 minutes or longer for just one piece of content. We know that faculty members like to pull in more than one piece of content and ask for permission. So this could equate to quite a bit of time. So the annual copyright license gives you back that valuable time previously spent on pursuing permissions every semester across many publishers. The license reduces the total time and costs of searching for, obtaining, and managing copyright permissions. So if you have the license, you don't need to take down content from your learning management system at the end of the term. So long as you hold the license, you can keep that course material in your LMS. And many of our licensees like having that flexibility. So I'll just pause here for a moment. I don't see any questions in the chat, but just feel free if you have questions, enter those into the chat and I can try and answer them. So let's talk a little bit about check and go permissions, which I mentioned earlier. Upon adoption of the license, we will create a RightFind academic account for you. And RightFind academic is the way in which that you check and verify license coverage for the content you want to use. You'll notice a very clean Google-like interface. And here you can search by publication title or standard number for the content you wish to verify license coverage. You can click the magnifying glass and you'll see a rights summary page. And here you can quickly determine whether a piece of content is covered by the annual copyright license. In this example for nature, I'm presented with the metadata at the top and 2 green check marks. This indicates that both rights for digital sharing and photocopy sharing are granted under the license. And you'll also see helpful examples of the various uses that are covered in this case. So for digital sharing, you can use it in an e-course pack or course management system, email a copy within your institution, display in a presentation within your institution, and photocopy sharing, photocopy for a course pack, for instance, or for classroom handouts. Other results that you might see on this rights summary page may be that certain terms apply. So a rights holder has said, you know, I want to present very specific terms that the licensee must comply with, or you might see that it's not currently covered, or that we ask you to contact the rights holder directly. You're not going to see too many of those. I mean, the point of the license is that you don't have to do that. There are options if you don't see content that you want that you can request title coverage. And our team here at CCC will work with the publisher to try and get that into the license. Somebody had the question, how is the cost determined for campus-wide license? It is determined by the Carnegie classification and the full-time equivalent students. And Madison Tremblay, who will join us a bit later in this presentation, can talk about that a bit more with you offline. If you need to get permission, you can also go to marketplace.copyright.com for individual permissions. So I wanted to share with you a sample of some licensed institutions. The license is used by hundreds of campuses across the country of all sizes. This sampling of institutions that have adopted the license represents the spectrum of the Carnegie classification. We have small graduate professional schools such as Amherst and Williams, community colleges like Delaware County, online universities such as Purdue Global and Walden University, and large research-intensive institutions such as BYU and University of Vermont, plus the entire University of Texas system. And this list continues to grow as more institutions incorporate the license as part of their overall compliance strategy. So upon adoption of the license, we will provide you a dedicated CCC client engagement manager, person you can talk to and ask questions with, and online resources such as this online license resource center. Here you're going to find materials that will help you roll out and announce that you have the license on campus, tell people how to use it, tell people how to verify license coverage using Right-Find Academic. You can also expand coverage to a vendor that you work with to help you get the most value out of a license. You may extend license coverage to an on-campus copy shop or an external course materials vendor. So there's that flexibility with the license as well. But this License Resource Center is for you. There's links to education, copyright education there. You can also find a list of participating publishers. So I mentioned earlier CCC Education. This is just a screen grab of the Learn page at copyright.com. So to help to raise a level of copyright awareness across campus, CCC Education offers a series of programs and resources. One example will be the Copyright 101 certificate course in academia. We have some videos. I just grabbed a screenshot of our Copyright on Campus video, which takes a sort of lighthearted look at copyright, but what it does is it makes copyright more accessible to viewers. So you can feel free to share that. So just to sum up, the license provides campus-wide coverage for the majority of content reuse needs that you have. It offers administrative cost savings and convenience with check and go permissions. So using Right-Find Academic, you can quickly verify license coverage and just save a lot of time and overhead and administrative costs. The license represents a repertoire of millions of titles that we are continuing to expand. And it provides a powerful risk management tool for licensed institutions. If your institution is going through the accreditation or reaccreditation process, a key component is having a copyright compliance policy and how it's communicated through campus. So having a CCC license goes a long way in that effort. I wanted to share a quote from a recent new customer. This is Lori Christensen, director of the Electronic Campus for Cummings Graduate Institution of Behavioral Health Studies, or CGI. And here she's just talking about the license, that it opens up the ability for faculty to use far more content than they had previously been able to use. And it has enabled us to improve the quality of the materials that we offer to students because there's no longer a barrier. So I just wanted to share that with you. Just got a question. I was just wondering if CCC has materials for assistive technologies. I will need to get back to you on that question, and I will. This came from Dr. Esther Burgess. I will get back to you with an answer on that. So I'd like you to think of more questions if you have any, but in the meantime, I want to hand things over to my colleague, Madison Tremblay, who's a licensing consultant at CCC. And Madison would be your point person or contact to get more information about the license or to adopt the license. Madison?
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Robert. I just want to jump in and introduce myself, let you guys know that I'm happy to be a resource for you if you have questions following this webinar. If you're curious about the copyright license and how it can work at your institution, I'm happy to meet with you over Zoom, talk about what that could look like for your library or for your faculty, and how to best implement those copyright practices that Robert has been talking about today. So my information is on the screen, and please don't hesitate to reach out after the webinar in the coming weeks. I know things are going to get busy with the holidays, but please feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Madison. So again, we're happy to take some questions. We have some time left. One question, a little bit more explanation. Why isn't ILL, why isn't interlibrary loan covered? So ILL borrowing permissions, after you exceeded the rule of 5, are not covered because that's considered external sharing. Nor is document delivery covered for the same reason. Permissions for interlibrary loan borrowing and document delivery are available on Marketplace or applications such as ILHE. Can staff / administration use the license as well, or is it just faculty? Everyone associated with the institution can share under the license, with the exception of alumni. That's the only exception. How do students benefit from this license? They benefit in that it's a lower cost for course materials ultimately and increased usage of copyright content. So it's an all-you-can-eat license, forgive the buffet analogy, but there's no limitations on content as long as that content is covered under the license. So you can load students up. Here's a question from Steve. It would be very helpful for you to provide a range of pricing, or at least describe how you decide pricing. Pricing is determined by Carnegie classification, so it's a type of institution which would indicate the amount of copyrighted content used. So a real research-heavy institution would have a different cost than, say, a community college. And then it's also the number of full-time equivalent students. And Madison can add a bit more if you want to.
Sure, I would just say, yep, it is going to take into account the number of full-time equivalent students. So we do weigh that to make sure that, you know, your full-time students are using a little bit more content than your part-time students. So we do take that number into account. And that is the main way that we can really kind of accommodate both big and small universities. So we work with plenty of very small community colleges as well as very large, you know, as Robert mentioned, the University of Texas system. So that is how we price it.
Right, and then Steve elaborates saying, asking because I'm familiar with your annual license for companies, for a large company, and wondered how it differs for an educational institution. I think, you know, it's Madison, if you want to respond to that in particular, like what are the distinct differences? I mean, fundamentally, they're the same, it's the same idea, but you want to describe some?
Yes, fundamentally, it is functioning very similar. But it is a license designed for academic institutions. And so pricing was a big thing that was taken into account. So it's not formulated based off of the corporate kind of commercial end pricing that I think you're mentioning for our commercial end license. It is priced with academic institutions in mind. And we've really worked with rights holders to make sure that the pricing is aligned with academic use and not commercial use. So you will see a much different price than imagine you would in the commercial space.
Great, thank you, Madison. Someone asks, what if a publisher isn't covered? As I mentioned earlier with Right Find Academic, you can request coverage by sending an email to CCC's customer service team, and they will pursue that publisher. We do this all the time. We can't guarantee that a publisher will participate, but we've got a long track record of we work very closely with our publishers to do this. So that is not a problem at all. We're happy to do it. Just a time check. So I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at the moment. But thank you for the, oh, here's a question from Mary. Oh, can you provide some actual numbers for cost, like minimum and maximum? I think I would defer to Madison, who'd be happy to probably talk with you offline about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big range, and it really depends on the size of your institution. So if you would like to reach out to me and provide me with your FTE, I can let you know what the price for your institution would be.
Thank you. All right, well, if you think of some questions after we end this session, feel free to email Madison, or you can email me, same email format, rgagan@copyright.com. Happy to talk it through with you. So I think that, that is the last slide. Well, on that note, I want to thank Madison and each of you for joining us today. We will send a recording of the session to you in a follow-up email in a day or so. And we encourage you to share that with colleagues that may have not been able to join us today. And let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help. You can go to copyright.com and learn more about the license there. And so thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.